I may think that nobody wants to hear, but it may help somebody else. You don't just wake up and you're healed. Like, you've got to go through the process. And so I didn't think anybody was listening until I got tagged in a video on TikTok and somebody said, she's got great content about the process of this surgery. Because I was upset thinking, how's everybody else healed from this so quick? They're liars. But I thought, you know what? I can be real and share my experience. And I think that is what's helping people. And I've always been very open with stuff I've been going through.
Welcome to the Shaping Freedom podcast, where we dive into conversations that inspire personal growth, transformation, and clarity in challenging times. I'm your host, Lisane Basquiat. Today, my guest is someone who's built a platform around celebrating authenticity and legacy in popular culture. Shameika Rhymes is an award-winning journalist, producer, and host. She is the creative force behind Check the Rhymes TV, where Gen X meets pop culture, and Soulabration, her wellness-focused series on blackdoctor.org. She's made a career out of amplifying stories that might have been forgotten. The artists who defined our youth, the cultural moments that shaped who we are, and the wellness conversations that remind us to care for that person that's behind the performance. It's important. In this conversation, we'll talk about what it means to build your own table in media and why representation and authentic storytelling still matter, and how creativity and well-being intersect in your life and your work. Shameika Rhymes, welcome to Shaping Freedom. I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. And whoever wrote that bio, I need a copy of it.
I shall send you a copy of it.
That was great.
I shall make sure that you get a copy of this introduction for sure. Shameika, we met through Billy Johnson, and I don't know when it was now, maybe 2 years, a year and a half?
Maybe a year ago.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. It's all a big blur. It's all a blur. And we had a conversation on your Soulabration show and had a beautiful conversation about self-care. And since then, I've wanted to have a conversation with you here on the show. And I'm really glad that we've been able to make this happen.
Me too. Because the conversation that you and I had, we also talked about burnout.
That's right.
And making sure you take care of yourself before we get to that point.
That's right. And I, it's funny, we have not, this is the first conversation that we're having since then, but we follow each other online. So I see you. And it's funny how even without speaking, outside of social media, we'll send each other things like, how you doing? You okay over there? You're tired. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to kind of talk about your lane a little bit. Let's start with that, if that's okay. And I know that you worked in traditional newsrooms and you went from that to creating something of your own, which I always love. Like I say, create your own thing, right? I'd love to hear though, something about your story. Like, how did you get from whatever it was that you initially intended to do to this?
Absolutely. So I never really meant to work in TV news as a news producer. The goal had always been, I want to do entertainment news, like E-News, Access Hollywood, something like that, or even Soul Train. I was like, Don Cornelius has got to retire sometime at the time.
Girl, you would do that role. You would do that.
Right. And so, watching like folks like Ananda Lewis, even Arsenio Hall, I was like, I want to do that. And of course, you go to college, and I went to a college in northeastern Tennessee, where something like that is absolutely not heard of. It's you go work in news, go to the newspaper or something like that. And so it was almost like I felt like this isn't what I want to do, but I feel like this is the trajectory I'm supposed to do, especially getting a job with the help of my uncle. Sometimes it pays to have people open doors for you. So I didn't have to do an internship. I was able to jump right in. And so I decided since I'm here, I'm going to learn everything about the newsroom. So I started as a production assistant, making $6 an hour. And as, working my way up and really just following reporters and shadowing producers, learning all the things because I'm like, I'm going to use this sometime. I don't know when, but I'm going to use it at some point. And so fast forward, probably 2004, 2005, went through an awful breakup and started blogging. And I didn't think anybody was reading what I was writing. I'm just online. You know how we do now. We tell all our business online.
Just getting it out.
Our online diary.
Yeah.
So I was just, pouring my heart out and going on dates and all this stuff after an 8-year relationship. And people were reading it. And I thought, now, wait a minute, is this a new career idea? So just, and I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I got the news job, a senior producer role, but my hours were 1 a.m. to 9 a.m. So I needed to stay awake. So I created a blog, which is the mofochronicles.com, and started blogging on that. And the views still started, they just kept coming. And I thought, I'm tired of talking about dating. Now I want to venture into my interest, which is entertainment, music, and, just throwing stuff out to people that I knew that did that, said, hey, can I write for you? Hey, can I do this for you? And then it just so happens, the universe said, I didn't forget you, Want Soul Train. I didn't forget you. So by that point, Don Cornelius had already, unfortunately, had passed. And the website was still going, soultrain.com. And I saw they were looking for writers. And that is what changed the trajectory of everything.
Wow.
And so once that site shut down, I bounced around to different outlets. And then it got to the point where I was like, these outlets aren't telling the stories that I wanted to tell over here at Soul Train and for other outlets. And I was tired of pitching those stories. So I thought, you know what? Do it myself. And that's how I ended up here.
Wow. They weren't telling the stories. So you were going to do it. Well, thank you for that. We appreciate that. What was your vision for it?
Honestly, because my lane when I was at Soul Train started to become, and this was just by accident, started to become, whatever happened to such and such? I wonder where this person is. And it may have been these artists that when they were in their heyday, there was no internet. And people aren't picking up these archives of magazines to see what they were doing. So I just made it my mission at that point. Like, I'm going to tell their stories. I want some place for them to be able to tell their stories. So you'll find really on Check the Rhymes, which is my platform now, I don't talk to a lot of young artists. If there may be one or two that slip through the cracks, but there's mostly the musical legends that don't have an outlet really to tell those stories, because there is no Soul Train. There is no Video Soul anymore. All those places they would have gone to share their stories, those places are gone. And now when you pitch those stories to some of our legacy magazines, they don't want to hear it either, and which is sad. So that's pretty much what the vision was to be able to still preserve their stories in their words.
Wow. And so how do you help them to, I guess, balance between like the nostalgia of what, of the time, that kind of I hate to say heyday because I think in some ways it just doesn't feel right coming out of me, because it sounds like a person is valued based on a particular thing that's very public facing. And I don't believe that to be true. So I guess the better question is, how do you help them with their truth telling, especially when they're kind of revisiting their past and their own journey?
Well, the good news is a lot of them are still making music. So they're happy to share the new stuff they're doing, but then, I'll whip out a vinyl album. I'm like, can we talk about this? And then they're like, oh yeah, butter them up first. and, but they're more than happy to talk about some of those things, especially, I like to get the stories behind the music. Like, tell me the stuff that wasn't in magazines, stuff I couldn't find on the internet, stuff that nobody knows. And then eventually, as you're having the conversation, they just start telling all their business.
Which story most, if you can share, which story most surprised you? Like, which is the interview? And I know all of them are amazing. And which is the story that we need to go find and listen to?
And it's just because it's on top of my mind right now. It's my Angie Stone interview from 2023. And just because I really just posted a snippet on Facebook. And right now I was like, where did all these people come from? Like, it's just literally a snippet. And she mentioned D'Angelo. And from that 20-second snippet, people have taken that and run with the stories. And I'm like, watch the interview. Watch the interview. But so it's interesting to hear her talk about, like, even going through the transformation of how she looked, before she passed, and versus how she looked when she started out in her career and just kind of gained weight over the years. And she was saying how people really couldn't accept how she looked. So just hearing some of that was really sad. I thought she looked amazing. Didn't matter what size or any of that. But I think it's interesting to hear some of the stuff in her words. Even I think off the top of my mind, of course, Ralph Tresvant, because who doesn't love New Edition? That is one of my favorite interviews. Hearing him talk about that his original album that was supposed to be the debut album that didn't come out, like that story was amazing, as well as I finally got to ask that man, did he really record every little step? Or was it really Bobby? Was it Ralph? Was it Bobby?
What'd he say? Or do we have to watch to find out?
You got to watch the interview.
There you go. You got to watch that interview. I say we get people watching that interview because now I want to know. Which is the story that you'd really love to hear?
Honestly, Bobby Brown. Like, I mean, we know all the things that Bobby has done over the years, but I really I want to meet him so very badly, but I also I really want to know. So now that I'm dipping into the celebration side of things, the mental health aspect, and because he's had a lot of loss in his life. And I think that I don't know how that man gets out of the bed every day, but he does. And he's still singing and moving and grooving and entertaining us. And I think that aspect of his story is just very important.
Yeah. And I think that you, with the care that you have for humans and the way that you create a safe space for a person to share, I think that would be an incredible conversation to have. And it would probably be quite cathartic and helpful for him and for his family, You mentioned celebration. Let's talk about that. What is celebration?
So celebration is my newest baby, I guess. My newest baby. On it streams on blackdoctor.org on their Facebook Live and YouTube channel every Wednesday at 7:00 Eastern.
PM or AM?
PM.
Okay. And
I launched that show May of 2024. So it's been going along, I was like, I'm impressed with myself that I stuck with it this long, something that's every single week. But it is a lifestyle show that I wanted to still have that entertainment aspect to it. Not every show, but a little bit of bringing Check the Rhymes. And I do have a ladies edition podcast, which is women's health. So bringing that element of health into it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's a fusion kind of both, but it's really lifestyle, health, wellness. And I'm always wanting people to take away something, some nugget that feeds their soul. So every show
What's the
is
name of the podcast again?
Ladies Edition podcast.
Ladies Edition. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll make sure to let people know about that. So celebration.
So celebration. Yeah, it has literally become a celebration, like a celebration, but I love when people walk away or message me later, like, I needed that show, or whatever guest said something that made me go make an appointment to go get checked, or whatever it is. So this, it's a show that really is empowering, it educates. And so half the time I know I can be very entertaining. So it's a little bit of everything, but it's such a fun show. I absolutely love doing it.
How does wellness show up in your practices?
Well, currently naps. Currently.
Listen, do not underestimate the power of a nap.
And I say that because I had surgery in July, and I am one that will push, 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 push. And so I said, if I want to, I need to heal correctly, right? So now, especially after doing celebration, listening to my body. So when I feel that crash after I get off work, it's like, okay, let me at least try to lay down for 20, 30 minutes. I think I have mastered the 20-minute nap, but 20, 30 minutes, some days it's an hour, but I call myself meditating. I might hear the first two minutes and that's it. I go for walks now. I go for a lot of walks. I have dance parties. My go-to before surgery was going to yoga. I was very consistent with a yoga practice, 2-3 times a week. And I'm hoping to get back to that soon, but that was my go-to self-care. Shut the phone off. Everybody leave me alone. I'm at yoga.
The 20-minute nap, on top of how wonderful it is for your body, it's also such a wonderful thing. It's a reset for your mind. And so we don't always need to crawl into bed and be there for 4 hours. Sometimes just giving yourself a little small moment in the day to just kind of recalibrate, gather yourself. That's what I always tell people, like, give yourself a minute to gather yourself. And it gives us like that burst of energy and kind of fresh energy that so many of us need during the day.
Absolutely. Like, I think even, and if I'm not that tired, even if I just lay there and do some deep breathing, that helps.
Just a moment.
Yeah.
Just a moment, right? Because we give so much of ourselves throughout the day, and we give so much to our goals, our objectives and the things we want and our dreams, and just to kind of pour a little bit in to kind of help to fuel you to keep that going. Hey, it's Lisane. I created Protect Your Peace, a boundaries and accountability workshop, because I know what it's like to feel stretched too thin, and how it feels when you're saying yes to everyone else, but feel like you're disappearing in the process. This workshop is your invitation to pause and to come back to you. In just 2 hours, you'll learn how to set boundaries that reflect your values, protect your energy, and strengthen your voice unapologetically. You'll also learn how to hold yourself accountable in a way that builds self-trust and momentum, not burnout. This is the kind of space I wish I had when I was deep in the cycle of over-responsibility and simply just doing too much. So I created it for you. Join me for Protect Your Peace, live or on demand, and walk away with tools you can use immediately to get back in alignment. Click the link in the show notes to register. You deserve to protect your peace and your power. So you did a very bold thing in creating these spaces in media, as a woman, as a Black woman, as someone who wanted to be involved in entertainment and all of that. What has that taught you about yourself?
As Donnie Simpson told me, he's like, you just don't give up, do you? And I was like, no. The way that I was hounding him for an interview, he's like, but I respect that. And I was like, no, when there's something I want, I'm not going to give up till I get it. So I was like, if I have to figure out a way in some kind of way, I'm going to do that. But what I have learned about myself is in the beginning, I was saying yes to everything. While it may not have aligned with the brand, I just kept saying yes because I'm like, I need the content. Have to put the foot down, like, I don't want to do this and it doesn't fit. So I'm learning how to say no and setting those boundaries. That is one thing I've had to learn because I wasn't good at that. Some days I still struggle, but yeah, and I'm having to learn that with Celebration as well. And even with Ladies Edition podcast, because on that show I have a co-host. So it's now, oh, I can't make all the decisions. I got to check in with my co-host because I'm so used to doing everything by myself. So that's been different as well.
What is that teaching you about yourself? Going from like kind of doing it all yourself to being part of a team?
Patience. Patience. And it's also, it is also helpful to bounce ideas off each other. And we've been friends for such a long time that it literally ends up being just like a conversation. But I also, when I'm getting overwhelmed or burnt out with my other projects, I've had to learn to say that instead of pushing through and tell her like, hey, I need to step back for a minute. Let's put this on hiatus because I do have to focus on, this project or this project because I've got a busy month, because I also, for blackdoctor.org, I host the majority of their panels and summits. So there may be a week where I'm like filming every day and I don't have time to do a podcast, so I also have got to do better with schedules. Working on that.
Yeah. Let me know what you find out. Because I'm really good at schedules. I'm really good at adding to my schedule.
Me too. I'm great at that.
So good. Excellent. Excellent. So good at it. What does this term authenticity, which to me, it's one of my my values. It's very important to me. What does authenticity mean to you?
Now that you say that, it might be one of my values too, because one of the things with doing my own thing was I'm just going to be me. I'm not going to sit here and try to be someone else. Even with my blog, Millfield Chronicles, it is very much me. And I had at one point, there were a couple people that tried to copy the way that I was writing, but it didn't quite fly. I had people say, you didn't write this because something's a little off. And I'm like, because that's not me. They're trying to be me and I'm just being me, whether it is writing or whether it is check the rhymes, celebration. Well, sometimes I just say whatever comes up in my head. And so I
That's
think,
what we want to hear though.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we really want to hear.
Yeah. And sometimes I'm asking the questions like I know everybody else is wondering. So I just ask. But it took a long time to get there because I was trying to fit into the box of how I thought news reporter type or news producer type is supposed to be, which is you don't ask these type of questions. You ask this, you don't bring this up. And I'm like, no, I want to know, I'm going to ask. So
yeah, I think that for me personally in observing you, we can tell when a person is doing what they're doing from their heart and when
yeah,
we're not, right? And I think that people are attracted to people who show us what it looks like to express yourself from your heart and to just speak your truth, right? Because then I think that the things that we filter are the things that, in many ways, are the things that kind of get us into trouble when we're like, insert the blank, whatever the blank is, a news reporter or someone in a newsroom or someone who is writing a blog or whatever has to be, looks like this.
right.
Right. And I think that you debunk that and you show up as who you are. And I think that is probably part of your success, a big part of your success with what you do.
Well,
Is that you're
thank
just,
you. Thank
Shameika
you.
Rhymes saying the things.
Yeah, and I noticed in my writing, one of my editors finally just gave in and was like, "Just be yourself." Because I was like, "Well, I have things I need to say before I get to the meat of the article," and she's like, "Just include your personal part of it, and then I'll." And she leaves it in there, and I love that.
Yeah, that resonates with me because I've had times where I so I was on vacation and I did a reel and I had and I was like out in the sun. I was like, just out in the sun and, had on a bathing suit. And I was just like, rah, rah, rah. And I saw this, someone took the reel and they put it up and they put a filter on it.
Wow.
And I texted and I said, you take that down.
Mm-hmm.
You take that down and you put me back up.
Yeah.
That's the way I am. Because that ain't me. I clean up nicely, but that day I was laying out in the sun and I probably had a little bit of sweat on my brow and I was, my skin was, doing being what it is. And that is something that has, I think is important, especially for people who are watching. I think it's important to spread the word that, be yourself. Who you are is okay. Who you are is acceptable, just as you are. And if you want to do a little thing, and if you want to do some makeup, throw on a wig, whatever the thing is, that's fine too. But remember who you are and be, and be who you are. And I think the more of us that show up that way, and encourage, especially younger women, to embrace who they are, the better.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that.
Even going back to the conversation about, Angie Stone, may she rest in peace. The fact that there would have to be a conversation even about, a person's body or what's going on. That is perfection, I think, is being who you are. Because that's who you were made to be. So take it up with the creator,
Exactly.
Take it up with the creator if that's, if you don't like it. What does success look like for you, Shameika?
That's a really good question because I moved that goalpost so much that I don't know. I think for the longest, and I'm being transparent, I kept feeling like I wasn't successful, even though people would say things like, "Oh, you inspired me to do this. You inspired me to do this." Because I am very much like, okay, I finished this project or this article, on to the next thing, on to the next show, on to the next interview. And I wasn't taking time to pause to like really take it in. And then I'd go on rants online about like, oh, nobody's ever recognizing me. Nobody does that, the third, nobody in this city cares. And then I started to get little bits of recognition, like, oh, you've got an award for this, you get an award for that. And then someone messaged me. And I think it finally hit me when they said, you're one of the change makers in the Queen City. And I was like, did you email the right person? like who? So, and those awards now, and it took me a really long time, but they're on the wall over here. So anytime I start to doubt it or question, have I been successful? I just look at the wall now. And actually, something happened last week. So I was doing a red carpet event for the North Carolina Music Hall of Fame. And I invited some students from East Tennessee State. So that's a little bit of a drive for them. But this was the first time they'd had an entertainment journalism class there. And I'd spoken to the class and I was like, just blurted out, y'all should come. Not thinking they actually would, but they did. And the best compliment, and which made me feel successful, was one of the students sent me a message actually yesterday. And she said, you inviting me and letting me shadow you and watch you and see what you do, this has been one of the most incredible experiences of my undergrad, like, period. And I was like, me screenshot this so I save it. So, and I thought, wow, to play such an integral part of somebody's undergrad, like I wish I would have had that in undergrad, but but for and every student I talk to. So for me, I think it's become mentoring people. And then after every celebration episode, when I see people saying, "Oh, this resonated, so I went and got my mammogram," or I realized I wasn't doing self care, or what was last night's show? I didn't realize I was having a micromanager, and I was letting it my anxiety fill up and not speaking up and all those things. That lets me know, like, okay, I did my job. You're a success. Like, it's not about the money for me anymore. And I always tell my sister it's my passion. So she's like, but what if your passion paid a lot of money? I was like, I mean, of course I would take it, but I'm not doing it for the money.
I struggle with that myself sometimes, where I'm like, I'm not doing anything, which is insane, right? It does not make any sense. And what you shared brought to mind for me that you can have all the accolades in the world. You can have the cheerleading squad that follows you from post to post to post to post to post. And until you're willing to actually look at that or receive that, you're going to continue to feel like you're not being acknowledged in some way, right? Because you're not doing it for yourself.
Right.
We wait for the external, and the external can be there like pounding the ground and, clapping their hands together. But we don't even see it. We don't even see it until we're ready to see it. It's been really challenging for me to acknowledge myself in some things. And it's something that I'm just starting to get more comfortable with. Even putting that poster up behind me, big deal for me, huge deal. And a walk for me over kind of a line of like, you know what? It's okay. Like, it's okay. Acknowledge the things that you've done, the things you've created, because I'm so willing to do it for other people.
Right.
As I know you are. You celebrate other human beings. You've made a career out of celebrating other human beings. And so it's really wonderful to hear that you're doing that for yourself too.
It took a long time and some therapy to get here, but
Come on now.
It took a long time. I mean, even I'm looking at it now. I had my first cover story in 2020, and I just thought, I'll just stick it over here in my magazine rack with all the other magazines. And my mom was like, did you look at that magazine rack? It's like busting with magazines you've got articles in. And I was like, oh yeah, I need to get a bigger one. And then I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go get this cover blown up because I've been chasing that goal. It is so obnoxiously big, and bought a frame for it. I haven't hung it up yet, but it's right here. But it's like, I see it every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just celebrating those wins. Actually, I mentioned that last night on the show, celebrating your wins, even the small victories. And I have one friend, if I tell her like, yeah, I got assigned an article about blah, 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 I've been pitching for a long time, she'll say, how are you going to celebrate? And I'm like, what? And she's like, how are you going to celebrate? Every single thing I tell her, how are you going to celebrate? And at one point I was like, stop saying that. But then I was like, she's right. She's right.
It's good to have a friend like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as a person who jumps from one thing to the next, and I'm like, that was great. What's the next thing? I think there's a gratitude in there that for me, when I'm doing that, is missing sometimes, because it takes a lot to accomplish the things that we accomplish, no matter what they are, public, private. And I think giving a moment of processing and integration and gratitude is the way that we really get to capture and integrate the lessons from it and the learnings from it, and so that we can actually put those into the next thing that we're doing. So I think that's part of the word for today is celebrate your wins, celebrate your wins. What stories for you are still untold? Like, what are the stories that you either your own or the stories that you want to bring to your followers, to your listeners, outside of the stories of, particular people, but what kinds of stories?
Oh, that's a good question. Because literally last night, out of absolutely nowhere, I decided I need to rebrand a little bit. And I was like, I don't know where this is coming from, but I was like, I looking back at say check the rhymes, I'm like, it needs a little shaking up. I don't know what that looks like yet. Um, but I know on TikTok, I've been a little bit more vocal about my story. Even with this surgery, I would have never probably have gone online, still bandaged up, looking crazy, bonnet on and all, to talk about, surgery. But I just decided I'm gonna be real about this particular surgery. It's not all, roses, and there is a recovery period. And I'm like, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You don't just wake up and you're healed. Like, you've got to go through the process. And so I didn't think anybody was listening until I got tagged in a video on TikTok and somebody said, she's got great content about the process of this surgery. Cause I was upset thinking, how's everybody else healed from this so quick? They're liars. But I thought, you know what? I can be real and share my experience. And I think that is what's helping people. And I've always been very open with stuff I've been going through. But I think maybe more of that, maybe trying to unlock those areas that I may think that nobody wants to hear, but it may help somebody else. And I try to infuse in Celebration some little stories here and there, but maybe doing more of I don't know if that looks like a blog or if it looks like content for Check the Runs. I don't know, or Ladies Edition. I'm not sure what that looks like yet.
More of you?
Yeah, more of me. Now that might change next week, but we'll see. We'll see.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're all ideas. You're going to make it happen anyway.
Right.
For those who are listening, is there anything about any lessons or tips about that surgery that you'd like to share for someone who may be listening?
We just posted a whole YouTube video and podcast about it, so I'm very open. I ended up having a breast reduction. You never really think about the impact that, when your back is hurting, your neck and your shoulders. I just always thought it was stress. And then after a while, it was like, no, it's not stress. You're just carrying literally way too much, and it's impacting the rest of your body, your knees and ankles, all of it, because you're walking hunched over. Everything hurts. So I don't think a lot of people knew the insurance will pay for it. So that's one thing I've been trying to walk people through that process. But for me, I also added on because, I can't just do one thing. I had to throw in two other procedures. And because I was like, I only have this much time carved out to heal. So let's do it all at once.
So let's put it all in there. Body, do your thing.
Yes,
and do it within 2 weeks, please, because
right. Right.
Because I'm going to get back to my normal thing. Yeah.
Yes. So it's 4 months later. I'm still not back to like 100%. But because I have been very vocal about my battle with fibroids and adenomyosis, a 10-year fight with surgeries, and they kept coming back, the iron infusion. So I'm very vocal about that and passionate about helping women and guiding them to what they should do or what they should research as far as that goes. So for me, as we were talking earlier about the being perfect and feeling perfect and the filters and all that stuff, as I'm sitting on Celebration, like, oh, celebrate yourself, love yourself. Honestly, I was the main one not loving myself. And I had to take a step back. Like, what's the problem? And I was like, every time I looked in the mirror, I was seeing somebody that still had fibroids, despite the fact I had a hysterectomy 3 years ago. So I still had the evidence of all the surgeries, and the scar tissue had settled into a shelf. And so when I went in for my consultation for the breast reduction, I was like, while I'm here, can you take care of this shelf? And if you can, let's do it all at the same time. And so there's sometimes a shame around cosmetic or plastic surgery. Now, insurance doesn't pay for that part. And so it was like that, do I share this or not? And then I was like, you know what? Why not? Because at my age, how many people are thinking of even doing something like that so they feel a little bit better, a little bit more confident? Um, so yeah, so they can watch all of my rants and talking about the nerve pain because that's the worst part of it on TikTok. It's Check the Rhymes TV, and I have videos on my YouTube. So it is a little bit more of me sharing the journeys and even what to buy before any type of surgery.
Yeah, that's so helpful. My mother, who passed away in 2008, was uh, she had some mental health issues, and uh, for me, there's so much that I had to figure out on my own as a woman about my body and about other things that are very woman specific, right? And and so I was lucky enough to have older women in my life that I could reach out to and ask questions of.
Mhm.
But today, from where I am, I'm a grandmother, and my children are grown, grown, grown. I think it's so important, and I don't do enough of it. And I think that's this is a conversation for me, and also a celebration of what you're doing, uh, because I think that we can't underestimate the importance of sharing for those who may not have that for themselves. Like the sharing that you did with inviting that group of students to come and experience something that they may not have been able to experience otherwise, or the sharing of your story and your journey through healing from having a couple of procedures and surgeries. Sometimes all a person has is something that you've been willing to share.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. I remember sharing about the iron infusions, and a lot of people said, I've never heard of that, but my iron's low. Maybe I'll ask my doctor about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm talking to myself
Yeah.
because you're doing it.
I probably overshare.
No, no, you're doing that. And I think, and it's something that I sometimes grapple with, is like there's this little doorway, and I'm like, do I go through that? I don't. So I thank you for being so inspirational in that way, because I think it's important. I think what's really clicking for me, and what you're watching me process, is that sometimes the thing that we're afraid to share is the very thing that is so helpful to someone else who just wants to hear that, to know that it's not just them, that there's someone out there who understands their journey. And so thank you for modeling that for me in this moment, and also for anyone, the people that you encounter on a day-to-day basis.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And
Yeah.
I know when I was looking before the surgery or any surgery, looking online for somebody that had been through the same thing. And so I struggled finding someone I could relate to that was going to tell me the real and not just oh, when I got off the table and out the hospital, I was perfect. I didn't have any swelling because I thought,
Right.
no, I'm still
Something's
swollen.
not right.
Right. It's 4 months and I'm still swollen.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, can we talk a moment about setting the vibe? If you're anything like me, your space needs to feel good in order for you to feel good. And that's why I created the Shaping Freedom line of candles. It's not just about ambiance, but really about how you align yourself internally. These are more than just candles. They shift your energy. Whether you're journaling, meditating, working out, or just taking a moment for yourself, these scents are curated to ground you, lift you up, and bring you back home to yourself. They also have an 80-hour burn time and scents that are designed to evoke feelings of alignment and internal congruency. And we can all use that. Go to shop.shapingfreedom.com and check them out. Find the one that speaks to your spirit, or buy all four, and let them burn with intention. If your younger self could watch you now, if your younger self was watching you, what do you think she'd say?
I think one question she would say is, can you slow down and get that husband? Stop working so much. Where is he? You said we were going to get one.
I had one. I Lisane, stop it. I had one. And sometimes today, and that was, I've been divorced for many years, but sometimes today I, uh, I think, where's my person? Where is my person? And then I observe myself and I'm like, girl, you are working from home. You have the same flight path, right? You're in your car. He's not in there.
Right.
You drive to the place, you drive to the, primarily female focused co-working space. He's not there. Like, you got to get out and be out about and about with the people. Yes, I'm trying to figure that part out. Right.
Yeah. And my 81-year-old neighbor, he said to me, you're a bit of a recluse. And I thought, that you might be right. Cause he said, you think some man's going to just show up at your door? And I was like, well, Amazon comes here all the time.
I thought
so. Right. But I guess
I'm waiting. It's taken a while. Just appear, please.
Right.
Just like be. Yeah. Is that a new thing for you? Like, reclusive is hard, but has the pandemic shifted?
I think so.
Your practices in terms of, being at home?
I think so. Because honestly, and it was, building Check the Rhymes at that point, it was the best time because everybody was at home and it was easy to get people on the show and build it up that way. But I think I've just gotten so used to doing everything from home. It's like, why do I need to go outside? I guess you do need people. You do need to go outside and meet people. And so I actually had a dating coach on Celebration the other week, and she's like, your assignment is to get out that house once a week, go somewhere different. And so I'm gonna take her up on that challenge because it has been, and I think that it's like, because I do have a day job. So I think it's just day job. Then I take my little nap and then switch to the other stuff. So then by the time I'm done, it's like, oh, it's 10 o'clock at night. Go to bed. It's the same cycle over and over and over. So you get comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
So
that was a few weeks ago. Here I am. I'm talking big mess, right? Because I'm not doing it. But that was a few weeks ago, Shameika. She said once a week.
Right.
A few weeks ago. You talk about what you get ready to gonna do.
Right.
Can you model that for me? Because I want to see if that works.
Well, I told her I might need to start off with baby steps once a month. It's about to be cold here.
Oh, yeah. I have friends who can just kind of get something on and they'll go out and they're like, I'm on, this number of dates. And I'm like, how do you do that? Like, I don't know. That's just not, I don't know. God's going to have to figure that out. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. I have no idea. What does freedom mean to you today?
Especially with Celebration, and I thank blackdoctor.org for this, the freedom to create the show that I envisioned, the freedom to bring on the guests that I think will make an impact. Like, I love that, the ability to be able to craft the show the way I want to without having to constantly ask, like, can I do this? Is this okay? The first few shows, of course, I had to do that. But then after a while, they're like, she knows what she's doing. It's good. Same with Check the Rhymes. Like, I just love not having to have to go to an editor and say, can I do this story? No, I can do it if I want to. Like, I love that. And if I don't feel like it that day, I'm not going to do it. I'm still trying to find freedom in that day job because I'm finding that I'm not aligned with it anymore. So now I'm looking for the door to freedom as far as that goes. And I don't know what that looks like. If it is a shift to just doing my own thing full time, I'm not sure yet.
We want to see the answer to that question. Yeah. Well, and this could be kind of, in line with that, like when you look at the work that you do, the body of work that you're creating, both through Check the Rhyme, Celebration, the podcast, what legacy are you shaping?
That's a good question. I used to think about that like, I'm not leaving a legacy of anything. I used to really feel that way until um, I was at an event and an intern that I worked with when I worked in news. Um, she was actually, it was like a child, like that's my child on stage, and she was on stage introducing like the next performer with Kirk Franklin. And I was sitting there with my mom and I said, I feel something. She was like,
Mm.
what? She's like, are you having a hot flash? No. I was like,
I feel something.
yeah, yes. Like I was like, I'm about to cry because I was so proud. And I sent her a text and she texted me back and she said, you were the only one that believed in me in that newsroom when they all put me down. They all said I couldn't do it. And you were the only one that constantly uplifted me and encouraged me. And so I think that's also the legacy that I'm building is a legacy of these up and coming journalists and I don't know what I think she calls herself a media personality slash MC, and like the students that were just at this event last week, and then I'm a huge part of the North Carolina Music Hall of Fame, the advisory board. So being able to shape what that looks like and honoring North Carolina talent, I think my hands are a little bit in everything. So I think there's going to be a touch of me somewhere. So I think that that's what it is.
Yeah, because we're all leaving a legacy, and it's not all the very public legacy. Like we're here. There's a legacy that's being built, no matter what we're doing. That's happening, and it seems that you're very intentional in some way, even when you may not be consciously connected to it. Like there's a rhythm. There's a rhythm that's happening there. There's something being created. And what's so beautiful to watch is that you seem to just feel the next thing without fully without it being necessarily as clear, but you're willing to walk through the door to discover what that is.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important to this journey for anyone, is to be willing to go through that door and also to be willing to pay attention to those times where you're thinking, oh, wait, maybe this is a little flat. Something else needs to happen here.
Yeah, and I maybe that's what's kind of pushing me to do a little bit of a not necessarily a rebrand, but a refresh, And I used to be like, oh yeah, I just throw things up the wall, see what sticks. But yeah, I think it is just being open and trying. I just told a friend, I was like, because she was trying so hard to have this project she wanted to launch be perfect. And I was like, you have to do what you told me, just do it. And you can adjust as you go along. And that's pretty much what I do.
What advice do you have for young journalists um, and storytellers who are maybe where you were when you started out?
You know how we mentioned Billy Johnson earlier? So one thing I did, Billy didn't know me from a can of paint. And I said, hello, Billy, I want you to be my mentor. Is that cool?
Oh, wow. I did not know that. And Billy, the Billy that we all know and love, said, yeah.
Of course he did. How could he say no to me?
Wow. Wow.
So I think it is important to have someone that you can go to for advice and navigate and because this industry is insanity, especially now. Just having someone that you can talk to, and I always tell like the students that I talk to, whether it's, I talk to students at a couple different colleges, and I'm always like, I'm an open door. Sometimes they'll reach out like, hey, what do you think of this? Or should I do this? So I think having a mentor is super, super important because when I was in college, I didn't have one. And when I started this writing career, I didn't have one. I just kind of was Like, let's just see what happens. And, I had the audacity. That's what I had, and even with writing, pitching myself to Soul Train, I had 3 clips, three, and was like, I'm good. Y'all should check me out. Then luckily they need writers. So they did. And then when I pitched myself to Vanity Fair, in hindsight, I thought, who are you? Why would you think that you, but I did. And they, they picked it up. So I would also say for those that are up and coming and, or if they're just starting out, just start writing so that you have something, whether it is a blog, whether it is, what is that, a Substack and all these new places you can write now, just something so that you are starting your portfolio, and if, being in front of the camera is your thing, that's what cell phones are for now, post that content. So just do it.
How can we support you, Shameika?
Well, so Celebration is going on a bit of a hiatus. So,
Oh, is it?
it is, but I'll be back. I will be back soon. But you can still watch all the old episodes. Everything is on Check the Rhymes TV on YouTube. There's playlists, and even the Ladies Edition podcast. There's a playlist for that too. Playlist for Celebration and the playlist for all the Check the Rhymes interviews. So I think that's the best central place to find all the content, all the interviews. Yeah. And I just, I'm always like, people send me ideas on who I should go after to come on the show. Cause sometimes my brain is like, I don't know anybody else. so, yeah. So
that's what I see you posting all the time.
Yeah.
You're like, I need some suggestions.
Right.
Does anyone know of a whatever the thing is that you're wanting to have a conversation about? Yeah. So if you have some ideas, follow Shameika Rhymes so that you can help her to get the folks that she wants to have in front of her to have conversations with them.
Yes.
What are you doing for the holidays? How are you going to end this year?
I would like to be dating, but I don't see that happening by the end of 2025. Maybe I'm gonna go outside. We'll see. But
that's a whole 2 months.
I'm being ambitious. I got 2 times to go outside. November, December. But just in case that doesn't happen, I will probably be with my family, probably. And so probably racking my brain on how to refresh Check the Rhymes and Celebration. And honestly, the biggest thing though has been the priority has been healing. So, because I want the swelling to go down. So sitting down somewhere, and I think that's the big goal. But yeah, I haven't really thought about it because I was looking at my vision board and I was like, yeah, none of this happened because I didn't think I was having surgery this soon this year. So I think revisiting that vision board is probably something else I'll do.
Well, we look forward to seeing and hearing what you choose to do in 2026. I have a feeling that there's rumblings of something, the next iteration of something.
I think so.
And I'm really curious to see what that actually winds up being. Shameika, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your willingness to come and chit chat with me. I always enjoy talking to you. This is like our second conversation. It always feels, I love the warmth of your presence and your authenticity and the fact that you are so celebrated. You've done so much and you're also very generous with yourself and with sharing and helping others who are looking to walk in the steps that you have in terms of journalism and storytelling and all of that. And so thank you so much for that.
Thank you for having me. I enjoy chatting with you and DMing. I'm so glad we could do this because I really did enjoy chatting with you on Celebration. So I'm glad you invited me because I was going to ask, can I come on your podcast?
I wish you would have. My goodness, we've been talking about it for such a long time, and I wish you would have because I was really happy to have you here. And when you decide, or when this new thing materializes, which I feel like it is, you got to come back and share what that is, like what you create in the space of the next couple of months, as we as we march towards 2026, because I think there's something big happening for you.
We'll see.
Something big and beautiful, kind of the next thing. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate you. Let's continue to DM. And when you find that man, okay, I made an assumption there, whatever your thing is, you let us know. Okay. You
Yes,
tell me how you did it.
when I find him, there will be signs.
There'll be something in your Mofo Chronicles about that for sure. I'm sure. But have an amazing end to your year, Shameika. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everything that you shared that I know will be of help and in service to those who are listening. And until next time, this is the Shaping Freedom podcast. I'm Lisane Basquiat. Shameika Rhymes, thank you so much for being on today. And remember, we feel more free when we are willing to tell the truth and use our own voice authentically and unapologetically. Love and peace.